Welcome to our deep dive into facilities management.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at some interview questions and answers for people who want to be facilities managers.
Okay.
And, at first glance, it might seem kind of boring, but it gets really interesting when you start to see the systems that make our workplaces actually function.
Right.
What really struck me was how much goes into keeping a building running smoothly and safely.
Well, yeah, it's not just fixing leaky faucets or changing light bulbs.
Right. So before we dive into the specifics, can you just give us a quick overview of what a facilities manager actually does?
Well, a facilities manager is basically responsible for making sure the building runs smoothly, safely, and efficiently.
Okay.
So that means everything from maintaining the building systems to managing budgets, making sure they're following all the legal guidelines, and even planning for things like power outages or natural disasters.
Wow. Business continuity planning.
Yeah.
That sounds way more intense than I initially thought.
Yeah, it's really about thinking ahead, anticipating potential disruptions, like, what happens if a big storm hits and the power goes out?
Right.
The facilities manager needs to have a plan in place to keep the building running and to protect the people inside.
That makes sense. It's kind of like they're the captain of the ship guiding it through calm seas and storms alike.
Exactly.
And speaking of potential disasters, there was a question about a contractor not wearing proper safety equipment.
Oh, yeah, safety, that's a huge part of the job.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, the facilities manager has to make sure everyone's following safety regulations.
Hmm.
Whether it's employees or contractors, they need to make sure the work environment is safe for everyone.
Right.
So that might involve things like regular safety inspections, staff training programs, just making sure everyone's following the rules.
Wow. So it's not just about the physical building itself, but also the people inside.
Exactly. It's about their well-being as well.
There was also a question about saving energy, which seems super relevant these days.
Oh, absolutely.
What are some ways facilities managers can make buildings more energy efficient?
Well, there are lots of things they can do,
Okay.
like switching to LED lights, installing smart thermostats that adjust based on how many people are in the room, even motion sensor lights so they're not on all the time.
Oh, I actually read about a company that switched to motion sensor lighting, and they saved like 20% on their energy bills.
Yeah, it's incredible how much you can save.
It's amazing how small changes can make such a big difference, not only for the environment, but also for the company's bottom line.
Absolutely. And it's not just about saving money. It's about creating a healthy and comfortable environment for the people working there.
Right, so it's a win-win.
Exactly.
Okay, so we talk about safety, sustainability,
Yeah.
but there's another aspect of facilities management that I found really interesting, managing people.
Oh, yeah. The people side of things.
Often overlooked, but super important.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some of the challenges of managing a team in this field?
Well, a facilities manager often leads a team of maintenance workers, cleaning staff, security guards,
Yeah.
even external contractors. So you're dealing with a lot of different personalities and skill sets.
Right, that sounds tricky.
Yeah, you need strong communication skills, you need to be able to delegate effectively, and you need to be able to resolve conflicts fairly.
It's like they're juggling a million things at once.
Exactly.
Managing budgets, dealing with emergencies, leading a team, staying on top of all the latest trends.
And that's where technology comes in.
Oh yeah, the source material mentions some specific software programs like IBM Tariga and iOffice.
Yeah, those are becoming essential tools.
I have to admit, those names kind of went over my head. Can you explain how technology is changing the game in facilities management?
Well, imagine having a central nervous system for your building.
Okay.
That's what these software programs are like. IBM Tariga, for example, can track things like energy consumption, maintenance schedules, even how much space is being used.
So it's not just about fixing things when they break.
No, it's about using data to make proactive decisions.
Wow, that sounds incredibly powerful.
It is. They can anticipate problems before they happen and make sure the building's running as efficiently as possible.
Fascinating. So we've established that being a facilities manager is way more than just fixing leaky faucets.
Yeah.
It's a role that requires a diverse set of skills and a deep understanding of how buildings work.
Absolutely.
Before we move on, I'd love to hear from our listeners. What are your initial thoughts on the role of a facilities manager?
Yeah. What has surprised you so far?
Have you ever considered all the work that goes into creating a safe, functional, and efficient workplace? Welcome back to our deep dive into facilities management.
Okay. So last time we were talking about all the different responsibilities of a facilities manager.
Right, it's way more than just fixing things when they break.
Exactly. It's about keeping the entire building running smoothly, safely, and efficiently.
And this time, we're going to get into some real-world scenarios.
Yeah, let's see how these concepts actually play out in practice.
Okay, what's our first challenge?
Well, let's say a company's planning a big event,
Okay.
like they're hosting a conference or a product launch at their headquarters.
So it's pretty straightforward.
Well, you might think so, but there's actually a lot that goes into it from a facilities management perspective.
Like what?
Well, first of all, they need to make sure the space can accommodate everyone.
Right. Enough seating, restrooms, all that stuff.
Exactly. And they also need to make sure everything's ADA compliant.
Oh, right, for people with disability.
Exactly. It's about making sure the building is accessible to everyone.
Makes sense.
And then there's the coordination with vendors.
Oh, yeah, like catering, security, all that.
Exactly.
So the facilities manager has to handle all of that.
Well, they need to be involved in the planning and coordination.
Wow, it sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it's definitely a big job.
And speaking of organization, there was a question in our source material about record keeping.
Oh, yeah, that's super important.
But honestly, I kind of glazed over that part. I mean, who wants to deal with a bunch of paperwork?
Oh, those records are actually crucial.
How so?
They provide a history of all the maintenance that's been done, inspections, safety audits, all that.
Okay.
So it's not just about bureaucracy, it's about having documentation that you can refer back to.
So it's like a building's medical history.
Yeah, exactly.
You can track its past illnesses and treatments.
Right, and that helps you prevent future problems.
Interesting.
Plus, those records can be really important for proving compliance with regulations.
Oh, right, like fire codes and stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about legal compliance.
Yeah, that's a big one.
What kind of regulations do facilities managers need to worry about?
Well, there are building codes which ensure the structural integrity of the building.
Right, we don't want any walls collapsing.
Exactly. And then there are fire safety regulations covering things like sprinkler systems, fire extinguishers, emergency exits,
Okay.
and of course, ADA compliance, which we already talked about.
Right, making sure the building's accessible to everyone.
Exactly.
It sounds like they need to be up to date on a ton of different regulations.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to keep track of.
There was also something about hazardous materials.
Oh yeah, COSH.
What's that?
It stands for Control of Substances Hazardous to Health.
Okay.
Basically, it's all about handling dangerous chemicals safely.
So like cleaning products and stuff.
Yeah, anything that could pose a risk to people's health or the environment.
Interesting. You know, it's amazing how much we take for granted.
What do you mean?
Well, we just walk into a building and expect it to be clean and safe.
Right.
But we never really think about all the work that goes into making that happen.
Yeah, there's a whole team of people working behind the scenes to keep everything running smoothly.
And the facilities manager is kind of like the conductor of the orchestra.
Exactly. They're responsible for making sure everyone's working together effectively.
Which brings us back to people management.
Right. That's a crucial part of the job.
What are some of the challenges of managing a team in this field?
Well, like we said before, you're dealing with a diverse group of people.
Right. Different skills, different personalities.
Exactly. So communication is key.
Okay.
You need to be able to clearly communicate your expectations, listen to your team's concerns, provide feedback.
It's about more than just giving orders.
Yeah, it's about building a strong team.
Motivating them, recognizing their contribution.
Exactly. Creating a positive work environment.
And how does that tie into sustainability?
Well, a lot of facilities managers are really passionate about sustainability.
Right. We talked about energy efficiency and all that.
Exactly. And they often play a key role in implementing those initiatives.
So how do they get their teams on board?
Well, leading by example is important.
Okay.
If the facilities manager is clearly committed to sustainability, it sets the tone for the whole team.
Right. Actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. And they might also organize training sessions, implement reward programs, things like that.
So it's a team effort.
Yeah, definitely.
Before we move on to the future of facilities management, I'd love to hear from our listeners.
Yeah, what are your thoughts so far?
Has this deep dive made you think differently about the buildings you spend time in?
Do you notice things you didn't before?
Like the placement of emergency exits or the types of light bulbs they're using?
It's amazing how much we can learn just by paying attention to our surroundings.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
All right, so we've talked about the responsibilities of a facilities manager.
We've looked at some real-world scenarios.
And now we're going to explore the future of facilities management.
The future. Okay, what's coming down the pike?
Well, one question that stood out to me was about choosing service provider.
Oh yeah, like for cleaning or landscaping.
Exactly.
I have to admit, I just assumed they'd always go with the cheapest option.
Well, a good facilities manager knows it's not that simple.
So what do they consider?
Well, they have to think about cost, of course,
Right.
but also the quality of work, the reliability of the provider, and whether they meet all the safety and environmental regulations.
It's about finding the right partner, not just the lowest bidder.
Exactly. And it all ties back to those people management skills we were talking about.
Right, because they're not just managing their own team.
They're also managing relationships with all these external vendors.
So how do they make sure everyone's on the same page?
Communication is key.
Of course.
They need to be clear about their expectations, build strong relationships, and establish clear contracts.
Sounds like a lot of juggling.
They're balancing financial considerations with quality control and risk management.
And let's not forget about sustainability.
Oh, yeah, that's becoming more and more important.
How are facilities managers leading the charge in that area?
Well, they're often the ones advocating for things like energy efficient systems and waste reduction programs.
Right.
And they might even push for LED certification for the building.
LED certification. What's that?
It stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design.
Okay.
It's a globally recognized rating system that certifies buildings for their sustainability.
So a building can actually get a green seal of approval.
Exactly, and it's something that more and more companies are looking for.
So facilities managers are really at the forefront of this movement.
They are, and they're playing a crucial role in creating a more sustainable future for all of us.
Now we can't talk about the future without talking about technology.
Right, all those software platforms we mentioned earlier.
Like IBM Triga and iOffice.
Exactly, those are going to become even more important in the years to come.
So how are these technologies going to shape the future of facilities management?
Well, they're going to allow facilities managers to do their jobs even more effectively.
Okay.
They'll be able to track everything in real time, identify potential problems before they occur, and make data-driven decisions.
So it's all about being proactive.
Exactly, anticipating needs and optimizing performance.
It sounds like a pretty exciting time to be a facilities manager.
It is. There are so many new possibilities opening up.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive.
Yeah, we've learned a lot.
I have to admit, I had no idea how much went into managing a building.
It's a lot more than meets the eye.
From safety and sustainability to technology and people management,
It's a multifaceted role.
and one that's becoming increasingly important in today's world.
Absolutely.
So to all the facilities managers out there, thank you for all you do.
You're the unsung heroes of the built environment.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for the work that goes into creating the spaces where we live, work, and play.
Thanks for listening.